All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Preccelerator. My name is Glenn Lonzi. I'm the managing director of a very early stage pre-revenue technology startup accelerator. That's a mouthful. We are a program of a law firm, Stubbs Alderson and Margulies, a full service law firm located in Sherman Oaks, just up the 405. I think there's a couple of attorneys here. Jake's here, Lena's here. She might be on the call. So if you have questions about the firm, those are the people to talk to. I am not a lawyer, so don't ask me for legal advice. I don't guarantee anything that I'm going to say is legally going to be verified. I use Chat GPT for all that. So that being said, we do these programs quarterly, and we have 3 other partners with us in doing that. So we have TriNet. Chris is here from TriNet. Chris, you want to say anything about what TriNet does?
Yeah. So we're a full service HR solution helping small medium-sized businesses with everything from payroll to health benefits, workers' comp, 401k distribution, helping you offload a lot of your HR admin work. Thinking about it as like an extension of your HR team. Helping employees size of anywhere from 3 all the way to 1,000.
Thanks. Also, Escalon is one of our partners. Mike, want to just say a couple words about Escalon?
How's it going, everyone? Escalon, a CFO advisory, outsourced accounting, outsourced HR firm. So essential business services is what we try to do. Support founders, everything that's not building or selling the product. So we've got 50 full-time CFOs, a couple hundred controllers. So anyone, any founder that's just incorporated their company, looking for help with taxes or getting that, initial setup to running your monthly reporting, helping you prepare for fundraising, and staying due diligence ready, I guess is how we frame it.
Everything numbers.
Yeah,
all the think about that.
Not a CFO, don't be accountable for anything.
Think about everything numbers, and for TriNet, think everything people. And then when you want to do everything banking, you can talk to Phil with JP Chase, and Phil is our co-host today, and he's going to be working with Ahmed and talking us through what it means to be an investor, what it means to be part of an accelerator, what early stage investing looks like. I'm not going to give it all away, but I'll let Phil Tassi take it away from here.
Excellent. Should I use this or should I just talk loud?
You know what? I think we don't probably need the microphones. 2 housekeeping items. Number 1, if you need to use the restroom, see Roy at the front desk. He'll give you a key. Please do not lock it in the bathroom. You only have one. Right, Penny?
Anne-Marie.
I'm Anne-Marie.
So close.
And then secondly, there's a lot of food downstairs. So afterwards, if you'd like to eat again, because we're going to work up your appetite, please do so. And with that, now we can go.
Great. So I'll just talk about it. I don't think we need these, not that big of a room. Everyone, I'm Phil, JP Morgan. Probably heard of us. We do startup banking from a corporation through IPO. We can offer you guys things like free cap table software, full service, basic banking, in addition to payment services and pretty much everything else you could need through your IPO. So with that quick plug, welcome Ahmed here to the stage. So you want to give a quick intro, Ahmed?
Yeah, sure. So hello, everyone. My name is Ahmed Mirza. I am a lead investor at Techstars LA. I lead our program, 3 different programs in Los Angeles. Techstars LA, which is our agnostic program. We invest in 24 companies there every single year. Techstars Healthcare, we invest in 12 companies every single year. And the last one, Techstars Space. We'll get into my background, but that's kind of high level what I do and where I spend my time.
Well, I think it's a good place to start. Like, you have a space program, a generalist program, and a healthcare program. What's your background that has facilitated you to make so many investments in a year? Because it's 4 programs, not 3. So the generalist program runs twice a year.
Yeah. So the LA program, the way we run our programs is that we have spring and fall sessions. So spring runs from March to June, fall runs from September to December. Each time we're running a double program. So we run LA in healthcare in the spring, and we run LA in space in the fall. For my background, I'm not a healthcare guy. I'm not a space guy. Maybe at some point in time when I was a kid, I looked at rockets and stars in the skies and things like that. But for me, I've always prided myself on being a deep generalist. So try to pick up things, try to go as far and wide as possible. Try to pick up things, learn things, and plug myself into different, situations, different learning areas, different networks. And that's, I think, the hallmark for an investor is like, how quickly can you plug yourself into these different situations, get up to speed. And if you don't know anything, of course, reach out to your network and sort of ping them for their assistance.
So could you expand on that? I imagine doing diligence on a CPG brand for the generals program versus a company that's pre-product, pre-revenue, launching things into space or going through FDA approvals, pretty different diligence process. So how do you go about that?
Yeah. And the reality is any early stage company, and I guess maybe by show of hands, how many people here are either in the venture world, as an investor? Okay, cool. How many people are on the founding side as entrepreneurs? Okay. Everyone else? Anyone else? No? Okay. Reality is when you're at the accelerator stage, we're at the pre-seed stage. We have very limited data to work with as it is. That's just reality. Companies don't have great metrics and really they're not tracking, they're an early stage company. They don't have much to show anyway. What we always pride ourselves on is to look at the team, right? Really understand the team behind who's building, what are they building, why are they building it? So we take a big emphasis and look at, the components of the team. Do they have a business person whose responsibility is to market and sell the company and sell the services that the company offers? And do they have, does the company have a technical lead that's responsible for the technology, the IP, the actual architecture of what they're doing? As it relates to CPG, we invested in a company last cohort, Sweet Kiwi. They're building frozen yogurt, basically in the grocery aisle. Really interesting brand packaging there. The thesis there, very strong founder. We fell in love with the brand. They had previously gone through Shark Tank. They're and they're growing. And really for us, what sold it for us is that when you look at their basically month-on-month sales, the doors that they're opening in each grocery store, that was increasing at a very fast clip. So that's easy to look at, easy to get behind, easy to believe. A deep tech company, last fall we ran the space program. We invested in a rocket company, Piran. They're based in Huntington Beach. They're building medium-class rockets. There will be no, to launch into space, right? There will be no product for the next 10, 15 years, right? That's just the reality. The bet is we looked at the team, and the team is from their former SpaceX and Raytheon engineers. And they're some of the smartest people. They're literal rocket scientists. And they know the problems that exist at SpaceX. And they're trying to build a different class of rocket to launch into space. So SpaceX, relativity space, they're building long-range rockets to go into space. They found a gap in the market, and they can produce them at a lower cost by using 3D printing manufacturing capabilities to reduce the cost. So I think when you combine kind of the niche, the angle, and the team, that gives us enough conviction to go ahead and make an investment.
That's really awesome. I didn't know that's about the rocket company. Now, when you're meeting all these different companies, how do you actually get to know them? Is it all through the application? Are there other ways? There's a lot of early stage founders in this room that might be interested in the program.
Yeah.
How do they start that application process if they wanted to get into Techstars?
Yeah. So lucky enough, Techstars, a bit easier. We have an application process that's basically live throughout the year. And we've created a large brand throughout the world. We're in 40 different cities. We run 50 or so programs worldwide. We've accelerated at this point over 4,000 companies in our history. For us, I really like to dig into the application. And I know, from the founder perspective, having been a founder, you'll probably wait until the last minute to do the application. That's just reality, right? There's so many things on your plate, and I get it. But the thought process really for the founder should be, hey, I want to put time into my communication, into my writing, into what I'm trying to convey to the investor, because the reality is the investor probably doesn't know as much as I do about what I'm working on. And as now being on the other side, I spend an inordinate amount of time trying to understand their one line description, their larger, longer description, and then I go to the website. I actually don't even look at the pitch deck, right? So I do those three things first: one line description, longer description, website. And if those three things tie together for me, I will take a look at your pitch deck. Reason being that, in my belief, and from what I've seen, is that founders try to over optimize the pitch deck, right? They'll hire a designer, they'll hire a communication specialist, and they'll make it all fancy and nice. And the reality is that could be great for me, but I want to see, how are you communicating to customers? And if your communication isn't clear to customers or partners, then I'm not building conviction to really understand and see that, hey, there's something promising here. If you're doing well for your customers, it's immediately apparent. And then the deck is really easy to get through. Then I can actually begin to, get somewhere and consider an investment.
So one thing I was talking about downstairs was sales. On one side, you have founders who have to sell their vision to investors, and on the other side, they have to sell their product to customers. What you just mentioned, communication. Where do you think that sales process really starts for the investors, for the customers? Is it the same deck? How do you message it differently?
Yeah. No, it is. I fundamentally believe they're related, but they're two different communication processes. Communicating to your customers, having a proper go-to-market plan and trying to, develop that ICP, the customer profile, right? Of who you're selling to. Having deep knowledge of that only comes from the customer discovery process. That means you have to get on the phone as a founder, talk to customers, understand their needs, their wants, their desires, and you have to fill that void with communication. And then you're going to iterate on that communication, hopefully in a quick way, so that you can quickly get feedback and see what's working, what's not working. For the investor side, it kind of works in the same way, in that you're going to create a deck, right? You're going to create a generalized view of what you're building, what you're working on, and try to communicate that to the investor. And hopefully you have some friendly folks in your network that you can reach out to and be like, hey, how does this look? How's this deck look? And then you'll get some feedback and iterate from there. But I do believe they're two separate things.
And what's the timeline to close each of those? Just to set the expectation, because I think, myself, as a founder, you get into a pitch meeting and you think, this is my chance. I'm going to say all the right words and come out of here with a large check, like it's Shark Tank. What's the reality? How long does that really take?
Yeah. So it varies at, for each stage, and I'll go through, at the angel stage, if you're meeting angels and super angels, right, high net worth investors, you should be able to close within a couple of weeks. These folks really just need conviction in who you are as a person, and they need to believe that you are the right person building this company. And hopefully they like the product and service that you're offering. At the pre-seed stage, I think it's a bit more nuanced, can take anywhere from, I'd say 3 months to, 3 to 6 months. Seed stage and beyond, you're looking at 6 to 12 months, for a proper fundraise, proper diligence. You have institutional, and the reason being, you have institutional investors there. They need to perform the correct due diligence. It's going to go through a process, multiple meetings, partner meeting, and then whatever technical diligence they have to do. But for an accelerator, for us, usually our applications are open for about 3 months. That's how long it takes us to get to an investment.
Now, changing gears a little bit. As you look at applications, are there sectors that you are not looking at, that you are not interested in?
Yeah, it's hard. Sectors that I think, and hopefully there are no crypto founders here. And if you are, I apologize in advance. I think crypto has a use case that has been theoretical for a very long time. And I think as the public, because has sort of maintained and gotten so much notoriety in the media, we've been led to believe that there is a valid use case, and maybe there is, but I haven't seen it play out yet. And I think a lot of investors are kind of spooked by that as well. So as a generalist investor, crypto is probably not on the top of my list.
Do you make a distinction between crypto and blockchain?
Yes. So I think cryptocurrency, decentralized currency, I don't understand, just given the mechanics of how economies work, how the money supply is structured, I just don't see money supply being JP Morgan. I just don't, I don't see it immediately. Maybe I'm not plugged into the right networks. Maybe, I'm clearly not, smart enough to understand all the engineering behind it, but I just don't understand it at a base level. Blockchain, I think, could be interesting. I think there's applications it could be interesting for. I think it could be interesting in automotive for transfers. I think it could be interesting in media, especially as we deal with increasing amounts of disinformation. But it's going to require a concerted joint effort to create something that people can, sort of build on and latch onto.
Are there any other sectors other than crypto that you guys won't go near, outside of your LP vice clause?
Yeah, so some vice clauses, we won't look at weapons, right? So anything that, sort of inflicts, destruction upon other people. We won't look at marijuana. That's, pretty big vice clause, banking related primarily. And then those are the two biggest ones at Techstars. As a program, other areas that we're not so keen on, but we're interested to learn more is probably the creator economy. We've seen a lot of startups here over the last few years. We understand there's tons of monetization happening by the top creators. We just don't know how that translates into a sustainable business. So I think that's what we're trying to learn more about. Yeah.
So flipping the same question, what are you really interested in right now?
Yeah. Well, I'd be remiss to not say AI, right? Say AI.
Before you move on, what makes a really good AI founder? Because there's a lot of companies that talk about being an AI company.
Yeah.
But what is, a lot of them aren't AI. How do you make the determination this is a good AI company, an AI founder versus business at all go?
Yeah. So this is, being an investor, the job is to cut through the noise, right? And that is the hardest part of the job. And I think, there's this presumption on the, sort of on the being on the founder side or on the consumer side that, investors have it so easy, they just make these investments, they turn into unicorns, decacorns, and, everyone's happy and merry. And the reality is to get to, to really find a unicorn, you have to cut out 90% of the noise. And for example, last year I looked at 5,000 companies across a whole cross-section of industries and verticals. And I can tell you for a fact that 4,500 of them really didn't move the needle in any direction. So we didn't even pay attention to 4,500 of them. 500 of them were really the ones that mattered, where we wanted to make, where we wanted to build conviction and really understand where to make an investment. Areas that I'm excited about. So, yes, AI is a growing area. Of course, we want to see different applications of it. I think what's interesting to me is making things more efficient through AI, right? So last spring, we invested in a company called iCardio AI. It's a healthcare platform. Basically, they're using AI to reduce the amount of time it takes for a radiologist to review an echocardiogram. So typically it takes doctors, clinicians 20 minutes to look through it, see, if everything's okay. iCardio can do that same thing with 99.5% confidence in 2 minutes. And that reduction of time increases the efficiency for the entire hospital, right? And when you think about the impact that has on a compounded basis over time, that means that they can see more patients, they can deliver better care, more care. And when you think about the grander scheme of how inefficient the hospital system is, I think that's what gets really exciting. So yeah, I think applications of AI that sort of reduce repetitive work and make it more efficient, that's where we get pretty excited.
Okay. Now that we've hit our obligatory AI conversation, moving past it, what are there other sectors within healthcare space or just in general that you're looking at that don't touch AI?
Yeah. So healthcare, there's been an interesting kind of phenomenon over the past couple of years as more entrepreneurs and, as technology has proliferated, as entrepreneurs have started to look at healthcare to build health tech startups. There's actually an increasing number of devices, services, software within the healthcare ecosystem that doctors are now frustrated about. Right? So a typical clinician, a doctor, is looking at 19 different systems in a day. And they're getting actually burnt out from not only delivering care, but all the administrative load that comes from it. So areas we're looking at that I get excited by, what does the future of hospital administration look like from a workflow perspective? Is there a way to take out some of those repetitive tasks and make it easier? So things addressing burnout in healthcare, I think that's definitely top of mind, and we've made a few investments there over the past couple of years. In space, I think kind of increasingly looking at, so we invested in a company called PeerSight. So trying to look at companies that not only are tagged space companies, but they're dealing with climate challenges on Earth. I think that's an interesting sort of dual investment purpose that we're sort of navigating and looking at. So these are deep tech companies. They're hardware, they're software. They're using chips and everything, and there's a long development cycle. But what's interesting is that they're looking to solve the challenges of climate on Earth. It's not just about launching rockets. It's not just about putting satellites up in space. PeerSight is using those satellites to actually look at the ocean on Earth and build a data map that basically gives that data back to cargo companies, fisheries, things like that, so that they can then see what's happening, what's not happening. For fisheries in particular, what's legal, what's illegal. Illegal fishing is actually a big problem in climate. So that's the first challenge that they're tackling.
So since you brought up PeerSight, it might be a good opportunity to talk about some of your other wins as a program.
Yeah.
Can you share more about what PeerSight's done since the program, and as well as some of the other alumni?
Yeah, so PeerSight was a company based in India. And India and the United States recently signed a space agreement that allows them to sort of leverage the space talent knowledge in the US. And it kind of works both ways. So we found them, I think, at a pitch competition last year. They heard of our program. They wanted to come partake in it. They then came. We were really. We liked the founders, so the CEO actually worked on the recent Indian space launch that launched onto the moon. So he was part of that team. So we were, pretty amazed by that. So made that investment with them. Since then, they went through the accelerator. They did all the programming. They did all the workshops. They met all the mentors. They went on to raise a $6 million round. And they're a big win. They've gone back to India now, but they're kind of doing the whole business development cycle now, reaching out to customers and building pathways.
So, care to mention any of the other program wins, the other ones that have raised a lot of money?
So there are a few. So a lot of them haven't been disclosed yet. We have probably 5 or 6 from all of our programs last year that haven't formally announced. one of our companies, and I won't mention name, from the healthcare program last year, is working on data and price transparency within the healthcare sector. They've raised probably X million dollars, is what I'll say. There's another healthcare company from the last healthcare cohort that is raising a Series A. So yeah, these are the few success stories.
Series A.
Hmm?
Straight to pre-seed to Series A.
Yes. Nomenclature,
I'm with you.
educating founders on nomenclature and the significance of that is important. And but that's what it's labeled as for now.
The round names get very fuzzy very quickly.
Yeah, maybe we should talk about that. Yeah. So what do the different rounds mean? At the pre-seed stage, and the way I look at it is, what are you de-risking at each stage? At the pre-seed stage, you are de-risking the team, right? Is this the right team in place to execute on this idea at this time? Can they go take this, the entire mile? At the seed stage, you're de-risking the product, right? So any sort of technical ability, can the product do what it's tasked to do, right? The team has said, hey, this is what the product can do. As you were saying, AI. Can the AI actually go out and do AI and get you the results it needs? At Series A, you're de-risking market, right? So the market, hey, they're selling into this market. They found a niche. Can they go ahead and expand and continue to? At Series B, we're de-risking probably revenue, right? So, hey, they've found a niche. They found their first target market. Can they expand beyond that and expand revenue? And then Series C and beyond really just becomes sort of, what is the grand vision of the company? Where are they expanding to in the future? What are the capital requirements to hire all the people they need to execute? So it really comes back to, what are you trying to de-risk?
So if I'm a founder and I see a competitor to a product that I'm building that's raised a second post-seed or a seed 2 or a seed bridge or a post-seed or a jumbo seed,
Mango seed. Well, I've seen them all. It's noise and it's jargon, right? So I wish, actually, one thing in our industry is, I wish everyone kept the terms the same and baseline, because it would remove all of the opaqueness around who's raising what traction they have. To me, when I see like a bridge round, or when I see hey, we went from a seed to a jumbo seed, but it's not really a Series A, that just means that the team miscalculated how much money they needed at the earlier round, right? So that shows you that, hey, maybe they weren't thinking about their execution correctly. It shows you that, hey, they didn't plan properly, and that's okay, it happens. But it does give you insight into that sort of mentality and that journey. So I think, to me, it's just noise, right? If I see bridge, jumbo seed, mango seed, I think people should stick to the main levers, the main guidelines. So whether that's pre-seed, seed, Series A, Series B, great. Let's not make this into a different.
One of the things I do when I start hearing all those terms, use of funds.
Yeah.
It really boils down to, in pre-seed, you're still building product, you're testing market. You're not raising an A round until it's growth to put your full team in place.
Absolutely.
So it's really about use of funds, and that seems to clarify a lot of those issues.
Yep.
And getting rid of the labels, because the labels change. A seed round 10 years ago is very different than what it is today.
Absolutely. And seed round today is much more data driven. It's a much more kind of institutional based round, right? So seed round 10 years ago, you could go hit up, angels and other high net worth investors, and that would be considered your seed round. Seed round today, the nomenclature is that you're looking for institutional investors like, a BAM Ventures that's based here, a Bonfire Ventures that's also based in LA. Those are the sort of people that you're looking at seed stage.
Could you maybe talk about the average amount of funding of each round?
Yeah,
And if there is any difference per industry or the
So
technology?
it depends, I think on the industry, it depends on the founder, it depends on the technology, so there's a lot of variance. Generally, where we operate at the pre-seed stage, we see companies coming into our programs that have raised anywhere from, let's say, $1 million to $3 million. But again, it's a very broad range and it depends on the company. Like you could have a space company and it's a pre-seed company, and they raised, $4 million, and that would be perfectly okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What about ticket size in Techstars? Are you giving space companies potential ticket sizes as the generous companies that you're taking through the main program?
Good question. It's a standard fee. It is
Standard percentage.
standard across all of our programs. And the reason being is that we experimented years ago with trying to with different programs offering bespoke deals. The challenge is that creates a lot of animosity, founders talk, and that creates a lot of animosity, and it creates, kind of a very tense environment for us as a company. So we have tried to just keep it standard now. That's our philosophy, and that's what we do. But I understand the concerns, right?
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yep.
How do you redefine the KPIs for the higher capital necessities of a space company who's trying to prove rocket engineering as against my SaaS company that I can scale with $50 worth of Uber app?
Yeah. So with the SaaS company, I'm anticipating that I will see some sort of LOIs. I'll see, monthly recurring revenue. I'm going to see, have access to some data around attrition and churn, and the lifetime value of a customer. For a space company, I'm banking on the team. And I'm looking at sort of their pipeline of how many people have they spoken to and how many people have they pre-sold their idea of services to. And if that pipeline is, let's say it can be $10 million, $20 million. We had a company that had $95 million in pipeline value. For us, that just speaks to the fact that what they're building is resonating in the marketplace. So when they deliver, companies are going to be there to contract and purchase. And these are official, LOIs that they're signing as part of that sales pipeline. So yes, KPIs are different.
Cool. Thank you.
So with your terms, what is it that founders get? Because it's more than money. How does Techstars add value to the founders?
Yeah. So the three things that we always sell founders on, it's investment, community, and mentorship. As I mentioned, we've run these programs worldwide. We're in 35, 40 cities, 50 programs. We sort of bring a very big community effort to whatever program we deliver. So for us, we rely, for founders, it's, hey, you're going to get 13 weeks of a high pressure environment. You're going to see how other top performers, other founders that we believe are top of the mill, how they actually work. And those are going to, people are going to form some incredible bonds during that time period in those 13 weeks because they're working on something day in and day out. The last piece is, a big belief is mentorship. There's the old adage of, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a community to build a startup. And the community that we built at Techstars is really through our mentor network. Our LA program has close to 15 or just over 1,500 mentors. David's a mentor. He helps, on the sales side and go-to-market strategy and enterprise sales. But, we try to find the best mentors who have been there, who have done it before, and are willing to sort of give back to that next generation of entrepreneurs to see them succeed. So,
But also like that part of that mentor network is the alumni.
Yep.
I have seen numerous classes go through the program and work closely together afterwards, supporting each other as if they were still in the program. I think you're being humble in just saying the 13 weeks, but the value of the program goes far beyond.
Yeah, we're, and we tell founders that you're going to grow personally and professionally, right? It's a completely different environment than anything that they're used to. And there's like a buzz. So, during the 13 weeks, there's an actual buzz in our office in Culver City. And to your point, Phil, a lot of the mentors, they work with the companies for a very long time. Right? So it's not just the 13 weeks. That's what we ask them formally to commit to. But some mentors go on to become employees because they love the company so much. They become advisors, and a lot of them end up becoming investors. They're first in, for the company, they're first, sort of investors into, whatever round or whatever mechanism they have in place.
They also become my coworkers.
They also become coworkers.
Thank you. So you've seen a lot of companies, 5,000 last year for 50 deals. You also teach a class at USC.
UCLA.
Or sorry,
I'll let her pass. I'll let her pass it.
Ohio State. You're all.
I'll let her pass it.
I went to Ohio State. You're all same bottom feeders to me. See you in football. Sorry. What is one mistake you're seeing a lot of founders make that you wish that you could just say right here to never see again?
Can I say a couple of mistakes?
Please.
So I teach entrepreneurship at UCLA as part of the business school. I'm a faculty advisor there with the MBA teams. And some similarities I've seen between programs there and programs we're running at Techstars. People just don't know their story. If you're a founder, you need to know your story. You need to craft a compelling narrative, right? And the only way you can craft a compelling narrative is by talking to other people and understanding their needs, their wants, their desires. And I think founders are so enclosed, in this mindset of, hey, I need to build. I can't really share what I'm working on. And as a result, their story suffers. Mm-hmm. So I'm of the belief, as soon as you have an idea of what you're working on, before you go build anything, you do anything, you need to test your story with the community around you, the people around you. So that's mistake number one. Mistake number two, on the execution side, I think in particular, MBA students have a hard time executing and turning an idea into reality, right? So like actually, students love to talk in business prose and at the 30,000 foot level. Founders, I think, struggle sometimes also in our programs from executing quickly, right? It doesn't need to be perfect. It's okay if it's, 50% of the way there. Your goal is to get to the next decision point, right? It's not to serve perfection, right? Because the next decision point is going to provide you another angle to then say, hey, look, I'm going to go, figure out what the strategy is from here. And if you take that nimble approach, I think over a period of time that compounds, and you should be further along than you were if you always focused on perfection.
So in the story, what are the things that resonate? Because it's not just a set of features. How do you tell a story to that would resonate with you to get you into the next meeting or get an investment from Techstars?
Okay, for example, let's say I'm Phil Tassi and I'm JP Morgan. And I come to you and I say, we have $4 trillion in assets. We have 5,000 banks worldwide. And I just keep littering all these facts to you. That's not going to sound that interesting or compelling. Because guess what? At the end of the day, you could go back to Google or you could pull up on your phone as you're here, as Phil is saying those things, and Google those things. It doesn't tell you any more information that you need to know. But if you come here as Phil Tassi and say, hey, I'm with JP Morgan, we help farmers in the middle of America realize their dreams and serve the entire supply chain, food supply chain in America. We enable that growth. That becomes such a more compelling story because now I'm inclined to read, hear you out, hear what you're saying. I latch onto something like, oh yeah, wow, that's pretty cool. Let me see what else there is. So I think moving away from facts and all the details and data up front, moving more to a story format. I think that's one. Two, founders, I think, assume that as investors, we know everything. I will say this for a fact, I'm never the smartest person in the room. I always rely on people and I always rely on Google. Sometimes ChatGPT, but it hallucinates. But I try to learn quickly. And I think founders assume that we know everything when they're building their pitch decks and their story. So they skip over some of the casual learning that can take place, the casual education that can take place. And I classify this as context. It's really important to give context up front, bring everyone at the same level, and go from there. And it's an art, right? You don't want the audience to feel like they're kindergartners or dumb. But at the same time, you don't want to come up at such a high level where it's all filled with buzzwords and no one understands anything.
Could you give an example of a founder doing a really good job providing that context?
Yep. Last cohort, Jorge Garcia of Linker Finance. So it's actually the farmer example that we used. So he's building a solution, a community banking solution for community banks. So community banks have a really hard time building technology. Why? They don't have the resources. JP Morgan has all the resources. They have a fancy app. They have all the technology in the world. So he's built a low-code, no-code solution that community banks can launch with, by simple IT managers who are managing IT in the background. And it looks nice, it has UX, and it's easy to use. He started his story with community banks enable 70%, or enable farmers to deliver, food to grocery stores. And that community, for community banks, that's 70% of their focus.
I had no idea. I know Jorge pretty well. I didn't know he used that example.
Yep.
So I guess, during the program, what makes a really successful founder?
I think it comes down to a few things. One is, are they willing and looking for mentorship and coaching? I run these programs alongside my colleague Matt Kozlov. He's the managing director of the program, and we have this. We always joke outside of our founder meetings that if the founders aren't coming to us with the best questions, some sort of problem that they want to solve, or some other issue that's cropped up, it's not the best use of our time, right? So what does that mean? It means that founders that are constantly looking at their business and trying to solve the challenges that exist in it. Fires are always burning for founders. That's a reality. That's the path you've chosen, and I hope that you get to the other side. The assessment, the mental acuity is, hey, which fire is most apparent right now? Which one is going to move my business forward? That's the one I need to focus on. And that's the one I need help with. So let me relay that to the people in charge, right, of the program to get their insight on how to solve this. And I think that sort of coaching, that mentorship, that humility is those sort of founders are the ones that tend to do the best. And we've seen that time and time again. And this is not to say that we have all the answers, but we can point you in the right direction to get those answers to solve whatever challenge is in front of you.
So as a founder, how do I prioritize which fire to put out?
Need to figure it out.
I mean, do you have a framework or heuristic or?
I don't know.
Like that's burning the hottest.
Well, that is the job of, so there's this quote by James Clear. He's the author of Atomic Habits. And if you haven't read that book, you absolutely should. And there's this quote, know the numbers, craft a narrative. As the CEO, those two things will lead you to know which fire is burning the hottest and which one needs the most attention. So if customer retention is going down, then guess what? Maybe there's something wrong with the product or something wrong with the communication. Let me start there and go from there. But you have to be a scientist. It's all experimentation. It's all trial and error. And if people say they know and they figured it out on the first try, guess what? They're lying. They're telling you a story, and They want to sell their script to Netflix. But that's the reality, is you have to be a scientist and you have to experiment along the way.
And how do you take into consideration the varying advice that you're getting from other mentors, other investors, other founders? How do you weigh which to take, which not to?
Never take Phil's advice. So this is what we call feedback whiplash. So in Techstars, there's a 2 to 3 week period where we call what we call mentor magic. We pair you up with anywhere from 80 to 100 mentor meetings with different mentors. And you're going to get different types of feedback. And you have to assess what's most meaningful and what makes the most sense. And the way that I typically coach the founders is be prescriptive, right? Write down every single piece of feedback that you got from a single mentor and do that over and over again for each mentor meeting. After a while, you're going to figure out that there's some commonality. You should be able to cluster those and build a mind map. From there, you need to figure out which one aligns with you the most and which one solves your challenge first and foremost. In terms of like tactically speaking, whose feedback to weigh more than someone else's, it comes down to really what you feel is right as the founding team, as the CEO. That's your determination. This is where you build execution skill sets.
So what do I do when the feedback is you're too early? What does that mean? What should I do?
So when an investor says you're too early, it typically is, the reality is it's an easy way for them to just say, I don't really like your company. And that's the harsh reality for founders. If they really mean you're too early, they'll say, hey, we really like you and your team and what you're building. It's a little early for us, but can you please keep us posted and add us to your monthly update? And that's the differentiation, right? Is that you'll get investors that will really latch on and be like, hey, we're so intrigued by the problem, the space you're solving. But for us, we typically invest at this level. It's just a bit early. Can we revisit in 6 months? If people are just passing and saying, hey, this is too early, they probably just didn't like your company.
So how does Techstars, the various Techstars programs around the world, around the country, how do they work together?
Yeah, so we have a central hub in New York. They manage sort of the fund, the LP relationships, and all of the venture economic side of how we run our programs. Our program and all the various programs then make a call to the central fund, and then we get allocation for each of the companies we want to invest in. The way we collaborate as an entity, as a unit, is we share deals with each other, right? So we'll say, hey, maybe this is not a fit for example, for LA, right? We have a big focus on healthcare. We have a big focus on deep tech. We also have a big focus on vertical SaaS and climate now. So I'll have my colleagues in New York say, hey, look, this climate company isn't really a fit for us because we're more focused on sports tech and other areas. But hey, you should take a look at them. Similarly, we know Atlanta is focused on creator economy. So we'll send creator economy companies their way. And we see a lot because being in LA, it's the sort of the entertainment capital of the world. So we see those businesses. So sharing deals and deal flow is one way we collaborate.
And how do you track them? Is it year to year? Do you delete the database of applications after a class? What happens to those applications, once the class has been selected?
We have a full history in repository, so we can actually track every time a founder applies. So if you've applied to Techstars, multiple times, good. We can see it. We can see how you've adjusted your business, how you've adjusted your model, what's new, what's working, what's not working. And the reality is look, we have a less than 1% acceptance rate, right? Or just around 1% acceptance rate. It takes multiple tries to get into Techstars. And I think this is a great segue for one of the companies that came out of the program here at the Preccelerator is Nevoice. Gustavo is the founder, is actually based in Santa Monica. He's building a med tech company, so hardware, software combined. He applied to Techstars Healthcare, I think, for 3 different times. He got in on the 4th time. But what he did as a very astute founder is that he kept in touch. He sent updates. He said, hey, look, this is how far along the hardware is now. We got this certification. We're on the path to getting FDA recognition. And all of those things, when you put all of them together, for an investor, it's sort of a bit of an unlock because it says, hey, look, this person is really at it. They're trying. They're not BSing me. And I see, an opportunity here in the future. So, let's go ahead and invest.
So lesson is, if you don't get on the first try, keep trying. You can put the graph together and then see when they've hit that inflection point.
So Mark Suster, a very prominent investor here in Los Angeles with Uproad Ventures, he had this blog, or he wrote about this thing probably a decade ago, is that we don't, investors don't invest in dots, they invest in lines. And the reality is that we want to see among different touch points how that line is progressing. It's not that it's completely exponential up and to the right, but we do want to see what progress you've done to de-risk your business as an investment for us. And that's the biggest takeaway is that as you build that graph, what are you communicating each step of the way?
So, and we're running pretty low on time. Out of time. Any
Questions?
Yeah, questions or any final words?
I think venture and entrepreneurship is at an interesting time. The venture ecosystem is changing. There are a lot more accredited single investors that didn't exist, 5 years ago. And I think for founders, that can be used as an advantage, is find your tribe, find your people, and build a company that speaks to those people and beyond. And they could be your very first investors. You don't have to go target, the Sequoias, the General Catalyst, all these prominent firms. Start small, do it modular, and build slowly, one brick at a time.
I think that's a wrap.
Any questions from the audience? Take as many as you.
Yeah.
Feel free.
Oh.
All right, you mentioned that customer communications.
Yep.
Potential. But they are part of larger customer experience. And what metrics do you use to evaluate not just the communications potential, but the customer experience that founder is providing, whether they already have the paying customer or they are just getting in like this situation with the space company where they have letter of intent, but they are not delivering anything in terms of product or service until sometime in the future. But you still have to have on the other side the customer experience. And how do you, as an investor, evaluate that?
Yeah.
And incorporate not just communication, but overall experience with the prospective.
So typically when you're selling a solution, whether it's, for example, let's focus on a software company. They're selling into a large enterprise customer. They're going to start with a small, very small group of folks within a certain business function. So let's say I'm selling software for marketers. I will probably be selling it to a champion, a buyer, and the finance person, right? Those are the 3 people I need to convince. The people that are using it, though, will be the marketers. What I want to see then is how are you expanding, if it's, let's say 10 people are using it at this company, does it then go to 20 eventually? Does it go to 50? Those are some of the metrics that I'll probably want to understand.
Right.
For a space company, I want to understand how many touch points have they had with those various customers to get to the LOI.
My question was more like how they do the touch points. Not just the number, but how is the company performing the touching of the potential customer?
Sales calls, right? Customer discovery sales calls. I mean, that's generally how they're doing it. Oftentimes startups will go to a client site to deliver whatever, product or service. But generally it's calls and, getting the customer on the phone to really discover the pain points and then deliver a solution around that.
What other, if I may ask, personal contacts at the conferences or expos like Space Expo, it's in every year in Long Beach nowadays. How does that come into play?
Not sure I'm
The
understanding.
personal contacts.
Yeah.
By meeting with potential customers.
Yep.
Like
So-
a cold call, if you will, but in person.
Yeah, so
At a
I'm,
conference and things like that.
so we facilitate introductions in our program. We have a database with over close to 1 million contacts. So we'll facilitate some of those introductions as sort of a warm lead. But we, part of building a startup is doing cold outreach. Part of it is getting warm introductions, and that's how you conduct sales.
If I can chime in. In any sales function, it's really about the relationship. So whether it's you initiate the initial contact through cold outreach, warm is preferred, but sometimes have both.
Yep.
Building a relationship, building the trust with the client, and delivering everything you said you're going to when you said you're going to do it to really deepen that trust is paramount. So it doesn't matter how it starts; it's just the ultimate delivery and what the relationship looks like as a whole.
And basically, that's what, as investors, you will look at.
Yes.
Last question. Boy,
So, question, so thank you for suggestions. So one of the suggestions you mentioned is like finding these high net worth individuals, angels, accredited investors. Where do we find them?
This is the hardest and most challenging task for any founder. It's very opaque. People don't want to reveal that, they're angel investors because then they get, there's so many startup companies that are fundraising, they get stalked. It's really through your network. It's through networking. It's getting in front of different folks. There are angel groups that you can start with. Tech Coast Angels is a group. There's other angel groups, beyond LA. Hustle Fund has its own angel group now. So that's a place to start. And really then it just comes from conversations. People will introduce you to high net worth investors and angel investors who can write a $25,000, $50,000 check. And overall, that's probably better for your company to get those first early believers.
all right. Great. Thank you all
Excellent.
for coming. Thank you very much. Great storytelling going on up here. I really appreciate that. A couple of commercials. Next Tuesday, we have a workshop. It's virtual on customer discovery. So a lot of the things we just talked about, we're going to get very technical on how to do that. So, and our facilitators right here, Adriana. So if you'd like to participate in that, you can sign up for it online. Again, it's virtual. You don't show up. It's Zoom. And with
I
that,
live in Glendale, it's too much.
what's that?
I live in Glendale, it's a lot of fun.
That's right. Yeah, a lot of driving. So again, thank you all. Please help yourself to some more food. And again, thank you for being here.
Thank you.